The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
Talking about the battle near Yosemite continues this morning as firefighters try to extinguish the oak fire, although they are making progress. So far, flames have torched nearly 19,000 acres with containment now at 36%. The flames are just miles outside of Yosemite National Park in Mariposa County. 100 structures have been destroyed in the flames. Hundreds of residents from nearby mountain communities remain under evacuation.
And as the oak fire burns dangerously close to Yosemite National Park, forest officials are considering cutting down trees to help protect the park from wildfires. They say thinning the park's forest by less than 1% would help limit fuel for the fires. This month, a judge temporarily halted the removal efforts, saying the park did not properly review environmental impacts.
An update now on a violent crash that killed 2 people south of Wasco. Here's a look at the destruction from that crash. It happened just before 10 o'clock Tuesday night on Kimberlina Road and Magnolia Avenue. CHP says a car did not stop at a stop sign and slammed into another car. Officers say both the driver and passenger in that car that failed to stop died in the crash. The driver of the other car that was hit was taken to the hospital. The names of the 2 people who died have not been released yet, but CHP says the driver was a 28-year-old man. CHP says they're looking into whether alcohol or drugs were factors in this crash. Meantime, we're learning more about a baby killed in a suspected DUI crash in Shafter from over the weekend. The crash happened around 4:30 Saturday afternoon at Burbank Street near Shafter Avenue. Investigators say 22-year-old Irving Rodriguez Barraza was driving under the influence and did not stop at a stop sign. That's when she crashed into a Jeep. The coroner's office says 1-year-old Aislinn Tejeda was a passenger in the Jeep and killed in the crash. CHP says Rodriguez Barraza is under investigation for the DUI crash.
And we now know the name of the man who drowned in the Kern River earlier this week. Search and rescue teams were called out to the Kern River near the east end of Hart Park just after 7:30 Monday night. The call came in after a man now identified as 35-year-old Omar Martinez was seen going under the water. Monday night's search was eventually called off due to the darkness, and volunteers returned early Tuesday, eventually pulling Martinez's body out of the water. By our count, this is the 6th drowning death in the Kern River this year alone.
5:05 now, and to our signature issues at 17 News, pedestrian safety. Kern County Public Works celebrated the completion of the Virginia Street Pedestrian Path Project with a ribbon-cutting ceremony at Heritage Park yesterday. The project includes roughly 1.5 miles of sidewalks and bike lanes along the Virginia Street corridor between Williams Elementary School and Heritage Park. The project comes after community members raised concerns about pedestrian safety and infrastructure in the area.
Ultimately, we improved 2 miles of sidewalks to make sure that students could walk from Williams Elementary School to this park and also benefit East Bakersfield High School students because this is their area. I mean, what are kids doing? They're going to school, they're going to the park, and that's where our focus has been, on these areas where families gather and where we had safety gaps.
To complete the $2.5 million project, Kern County Public Works got a $2.17 million grant from Caltrans' Active Transportation Program and nearly $450,000 from Kern County Public Works.
Making news around the state now, a Sausalito ship has removed nearly 100 tons of trash from the Pacific Ocean. After more than a month at sea, the cleanup crew brought back fishing nets, piles of plastic toothbrushes, laundry baskets, yoga mats, freezers, and even a washing machine. The Ocean Voyages Institute used a 130-foot-long sailing cargo ship to collect trash in the North Pacific area, also known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which stretches over 500,000 square miles. The crew says the plastic they recovered will now be repurposed or recycled.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh, it just makes you sick to your stomach.
Yeah, to see how much is in the ocean.
It's so sad.
And in an effort to become more environmentally responsible, Sprite is retiring its green plastic bottles after more than 60 years. Coca-Cola says the green plastic bottles contain a chemical additive that cannot be recycled. From now on, the bottles will be clear. Other beverages from Coca-Cola that use green bottles, including Fresca, Seagrams, and Mellow Yellow, will also be replaced with clear containers in the coming months.
Never thought about that. Well, some Subway super fans got the Subway Series logo tattooed on their backs in Las Vegas yesterday.
Okay, and you may be wondering why. Well, that's because those fans got full-on foot-long tattoos. And now they get free Subway sandwiches for life. 9 people got tattooed, but only one got the foot-long tattoo to secure those subs until his dying day. Those who got smaller tattoos will get the free sandwiches for just a year.
And yeah, it's for on your body forever, even if it's smaller.
I say if you're going to do it, you might as well go big or go home.
Exactly. At least get them for life.
We turn to the latest on the ongoing battle against the deadly synthetic opioid fentanyl. A local child almost lost his life to the killer drug, one of a growing number of child overdoses of the drug this year. 17's Moses Small has more.
Deputies were called to Adventist Health of Bakersfield June 16th for a child abuse investigation. Documents say a 1.5-year-old boy had no pulse, wasn't breathing, and turned blue by the time the parents turned him over to a quick-thinking nurse in the parking lot of the Chester Avenue Hospital. She immediately started CPR. That and a dose of the opioid reversal drug Narcan saved the toddler's life. The parents, Bryson Elliott and Mia Bejarano, reportedly told deputies a relative with a drug problem possibly dropped a white powdery substance in their home on Park Meadows Drive in Oildale. No charges have been filed in the case. This comes after a 9-month-old overdosed on fentanyl in East Bakersfield in January, and a 1-year-old suffered the same fate just days later in Southwest Bakersfield. Both children survived, but these cases show a much larger addiction problem in Kern County. Andrew Laird works at Bakersfield Recovery Services.
This is kind of a testament to how dangerous fentanyl in particular is. It's not like the baby is using it. They're not smoking a pipe, or they're not obviously injecting it. All they have to do is just touch a little bit of it.
Laird says you should recognize the signs of fentanyl addiction to keep your family safe.
You know, usually family knows best. Usually a change of behavior. It could be anybody.
Moses Small, 17 News.
And as mentioned, we reported on a similar case earlier this year. Investigators say a mother did not call 911 when her 9-month-old baby overdosed because she didn't want to go to jail. The document stated 23-year-old Gabriela Cruz was arrested in January after a neighbor overheard her screaming and called 911. An officer said he arrived to find multiple people working to help the child, who occasionally gasped for air. The boy was taken to the hospital and survived. Cruz has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of felony child cruelty, amongst other charges. The parents of another 1-year-old child who overdosed on fentanyl in January still have not been charged. Police reports show the parents, John Lawson and Gabriella Goldberg, told police they're addicted to the drug. The 2 allegedly admitted to smoking fentanyl the night of January 15th, and their son was later discovered unresponsive in their apartment on Kroll Way. Lawson said the boy may have been exposed to fentanyl through a straw that was found near him. The boy was rushed to the hospital and treated for an opioid overdose, and he survived. Lawson and Goldberg were arrested on suspicion of felony child endangerment, but have since bailed out. Prosecutors sent the case back to police for further investigation. For more on the fentanyl crisis in Kern County, including 17's Robert Price's Emmy Award-winning series called Fentanyl, The Counterfeit Killer, you can visit our website, kget.com/fentanyl. We have breaking news coming into our newsroom this morning, and as fears of a recession continue, the second quarter GDP report was just released about 4 minutes ago, and it shows GDP fell 0.9% in the second quarter. That is the second straight decline and a strong recession signal. Gross domestic product was expected to increase 0.3% in the second quarter, according to Dow Jones estimates. Officially, the National Bureau of Economic Research declares recessions and expansions and likely will not make a judgment on the period in question for several months, if not longer. And coming up at 6:30, Dave Anderson with MoneyWise Wealth Management is going to break down this report. He's reading a little bit about what this report says and what this means for your wallet and how it can impact our economy. Again, our live interview with Dave Anderson coming up this morning at 6:30 on 17 News at Sunrise.
Also making news around the nation, an unexpected major deal on climate, taxes, and healthcare was reached yesterday. The bill is called the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, reaching its unexpected breakthrough after Senator Joe Manchin reversed his opposition to quickly moving a broad filibuster-proof bill. Manchin announced he would support a package that includes major investments in drug pricing, as well as provisions to address climate change and taxes on the wealthy. The package would create over $400 billion in revenue through tax reforms, including a 15% corporate minimum tax, IRS tax enforcement, and the carried interest loophole. The Senate will consider the bill next week, with it needing a simple majority vote to pass.
Soon, the semiconductor industry could get a multi-billion-dollar boost. Legislation to invest in semiconductors passed the Senate with bipartisan support. It provides $52 billion in incentives and gives tax breaks to encourage semiconductor companies to build their plants and chips right here in the United States. The bill received support from both parties, but it wasn't without pushback from both sides as well. Some lawmakers call it a corporate giveaway.
Blank check to the highly profitable microchip industry with no protections at all for the American taxpayer.
There is absolutely no accountability. It doesn't make any sense.
The House is expected to pass the bill later this week, and President Biden says he will sign it as soon as they do that.
Dozens of former Republicans and Democrats say they're forming a new third U.S. political party. That's according to a report from Reuters. The new party, called Forward, will appeal to millions of voters who they say are dismayed with what they see as America's dysfunctional two-party system. Andrew Yang is now the co-chair of the Forward Party. Former Republican New Jersey Governor Christine Todd Whitman will also serve as co-chair. Forward aims to gain party registration and ballot access in 30 states by the end of 2023 and all 50 states by late 2024.
Now to news making headlines around the world this morning, and the United States has made an offer to Russia in a deal aimed at bringing WNBA star Brittany Griner and jailed American Paul Whelan back home. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced the offered deal in a sharp reversal of previous policy. The statement marked the first time the U.S. government had publicly revealed any concrete action it has taken to secure the release of Griner, who was arrested on drug-related charges at a Moscow airport in February. Specific details of the deal, which was offered weeks ago, have not been released.
In the coming days, I expect to speak with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov for the first time since the war began. I plan to raise an issue that's a top priority for us: the release of Americans Paul Whelan and Brittany Griner, who've been wrongfully detained and must be allowed to come home.
As of this morning, Washington has not heard back from Moscow, but Russia has expressed interest for years for the release of Victor Bout, a Russian arms dealer once labeled the Merchant of Death, who was sentenced to 25 years in prison back in 2012.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.